very warm welcome to you, Colin.
Thank you very much.
Colin, one of the things that I'm reading from just about every article about how Nigeria participated in the Olympics is saying that what was the biggest problem was that Team Nigeria was very, very ill prepared. What do you think the problem was?
Well, that's very true. Unfortunately, preparation in Nigeria is always the same thing over and over again, whether it's the Olympic teams, the football teams, the basketball. Preparation is always a big issue. Now, you were talking about reading it. The Minister of Sports himself came out and admitted that the funds for Team Nigeria's preparations were only released in April for the Olympic Games that took place in July. So, I mean, that's not the ideal situation preparation at all. You want to prepare for the Olympic Games, you've got to start at least 4 years earlier. The 2012 Olympics is ending now. This is when to start preparing for 2014, and that's been the big issue with Nigeria over the years.
Colin, now something else that I've seemed to have picked up on is that when it came to the coaches, it seemed as though most of the coaches that went to the Olympics seemed very dedicated, very into pushing their teams and wanting their teams to win. It seems that the athletes themselves were very motivated and really wanted to win. But then it seems as though the sports administrators are being put under the spotlight here as they were to blame for how Team Nigeria performed.
Exactly. Look, there's only so much you can do as an athlete if you don't put in the training required. You're competing against the best in the world, so you've got to be there at their own level. Look, I pointed it out earlier. We looked at our best medal hope was Blessing Okagbare. Her personal best was 10.96, and the Olympic gold was won at, that's for 100 meters, was won at 10.75. So there's no way she could have competed at that level. And if you don't prepare and build yourself, structure your training to peak at the Olympic Games, then you're not going to get there. Unfortunately, that's what happened to most of the athletes, because the administrators don't give them the proper direction, don't give them the foundation to train properly, to prepare themselves properly to do well at the Olympic Games, Colin, or anywhere else for that matter.
Colin, over the years we have seen Nigeria is pretty much represented almost at every Olympics when it comes to athletics, but even in that sport, Nigeria fell quite behind, and that performance is also said to be poor. When it comes to sports that you think Nigeria has the competitive advantage and is not doing well, which sports for you, when you were watching, disappointed you the most in how Nigeria performed?
Athletics, obviously. You've mentioned it first. We've always done well in the relays, in the sprints, you know, in the middle distance races. Our first gold medal was in the long jump, Chioma Junwa. Now, that was an individual effort. She prepared for it almost on her own, along with former Nigeria international Segun Odegbami. The next Olympic gold came from football, which was more like a fluke at the time, because it really wasn't planned for. We just had a group of players who had matured at the same time into the senior team, and we discovered they were all, almost all of them were at the Olympic level, and so they all went there and they won the gold fortuitously against Brazil and Argentina. So, but you look at the relay teams, that's where we've always had joy. The women won bronze at in 92 games. The men won silver 12 years ago, which thankfully has turned to gold after the Americans were stripped of the gold medal. So athletics is where you think we've got to do much better. We've got to improve. You know, we've got to build on the successes of the past. Unfortunately, the administrators won't let that happen.
One of the things that the new minister did say is that he would like to see private sector come on board as well, just in terms of funding. Do you think that that would probably be a scapegoat right now, to say that the funding wasn't enough, or is it really an issue in Nigeria that the kind of money that is needed to train the Olympic team is just not there?
Well, look, the first thing is, as Nigerians, we're used to working under pressure. We're used to working under very, very difficult constraints. So I'm not so sure it's so much about the amount of money as when the money actually comes. So look, if, for instance, you tell Blessing Okagbare or Obinametu, for instance, and say, look, we want you to win a medal, any color, at the 2014 games in Rio, and then you start helping her prepare for those games from now, it doesn't matter how much money you give her, just make sure you get, I mean, she has enough money to get her equipment, to pay her coaches, you know, to work her way to those tournaments, and then gradually she'll get there. I'm not saying we should not give her enough money, but I'm saying that if the money comes early, it gives her enough time, her or any other athlete, enough time to start preparing together and knowing that at least I can have a regular source of training grants coming in from the government, and then, you know, that helps. But if you wait until 3 months to the Olympic Games before you start bringing $100 million to give her, there's no way it's going to help. There's no way it's going to help.
So, Colin, I was reading one opinion piece, and this is from a Nigerian writer, and he was saying that if you look at how China, for example, performed at these Olympics and how they performed at Beijing, he said that it seems as though their strategy is not just about the next Olympics. Their strategy is where they're going to be going for probably the next couple of decades. So they're looking very, very long term. Just in terms of where Nigeria needs to go, we've got Commonwealth 2014, we've got Rio 2016. How long is it going to take, do you think, to turn this around, that we do start to see Nigeria back to the place where it was bringing medals home?
At the very minimum, I'd say 8 years. I wrote a piece a couple of days ago where I dissected the whole issue, and I said, look, whatever we get in the next Olympic Games will only be a bonus. The important thing is, look, the Chinese, they start training as early as the age of 5, 6, and these children go through some rigorous, very, very rigorous training, very demanding training at a young age until, you know, for them, losing is not an option. If you win a silver medal, you don't get anything. You win a gold medal, you get congratulations from the premier on state TV. Anything other than gold, you don't get anything. So we are not that desperate, or not desperate. We're not that driven like the Chinese. We'll take a silver, we'll take a bronze. Excuse me. But what we need to do, and I like what the minister has said. You know, I think he appreciates the constraints that the athletes have faced. He sees the problems, and what he said going forward is that we'll go back to school sports. Get the children doing competitive sports from the primary schools, from the secondary schools, all the way to universities, and then, you know, when they come out from there, they will train them, monitor them, get some private sector partnerships, some corporate private companies to sponsor them with their training, and then, you know, build them up to the games. And that's why I said 8 years for me is the minimum.
Thank you so much for joining us, Colin.